I'm Mara Bowman, and this is my community work history. Coming from a family where both of my parents work in service-oriented fields, from a young age, I was instilled with the idea that what you pursue as a career should be connected to giving back, all centered around this idea of finding purpose and vocation. Our family values were similar to what Richard Leiter describes in his excerpt on purpose. It's an aim outside of yourself. The universal default of purpose is two things: grow and give. And that is definitely something that my parents both modeled and embodied within our family. Our deep connections to our church had us involved in lots of service-oriented work, but a lot of these were pretty transactional. While they taught me to always find ways to give back, I never was challenged to think about the negative impacts surface-level service could have. At that time, I approached community work from a deficit mindset, that the people we were serving needed something from me. Although my familial values created this essential foundation for me, it was my years at the U of M that were what drastically shifted my perspective on the idea of community engagement. My first year at the U, I became involved in a program called America Reads through work study. Twice a week, we went to a homework center through Common Bond that was in the basement of a housing facility. At the end of that year, I remember being so disappointed that I wouldn't get to continue the relationships that I had started there. But then I remembered that I was in charge of how I spent my time. I reached out to the site coordinator and decided to volunteer as a study buddy. I remained with this program for the next 2 years, where I worked with the same student for 2 out of the 3 years. For the first time, I experienced actively choosing a community organization that I felt connected to. I built relationships, maintained old ones, and it was impactful to see students' reactions when someone they recognized, even if faintly, had stayed. I remember kids I had in homework center coming up to me saying, "Wait, don't I know you? You're that girl from college." I witnessed firsthand the sometimes dangerous revolving door of volunteers that would come from retirement volunteer groups and oftentimes universities. It was a much-needed reminder of how volunteering should be intentional, that it should be a partnership. It was a good lesson. In my junior year, I heard about CESP. The passion I had for taking my interests and applying them locally, I knew this program would be a good fit. And it challenged me to really take these experiences and to grow from them. The partnerships that I committed to throughout my time in the program shifted how I thought about my own future career, teaching. A majority of the core classes for elementary ed majors are centered around community-focused learning. Throughout undergrad, we complete 3 different practicum experiences where we work in a local school. Partnering with a classroom teacher provided valuable experience and space to be able to reflect on our teaching practices. It made me really analyze, what kind of teacher do I want to be, as well as gaining first-hand understanding of the barriers that teachers face in being connected to their students. Getting to experience 3 different neighborhoods as well, North and South Minneapolis and Edina, also provided essential perspectives on distribution of resources and how educational opportunities differentiate based on race and socioeconomic composition of neighborhoods. My experience at Common Bond so closely integrated volunteers, families, and students in a way that I think teachers would benefit in replicating from. My most meaningful past and present experiences connect back to education, a story thread that has woven its way throughout a lot of my family history. Ever since I was a kid, I had a fascination with teaching. As I grew older, my admiration for my teachers turned into my own drive to make education not only a better experience for individual students, but reconstructing a broken and inequitable system. Growing up at a time in Wisconsin where politics and education were complexly intertwined, I saw firsthand how my dad as a teacher was serving as an advocate in many ways. I also witnessed my dad experiencing burnout. It's an unfortunate thing that people in many fields, or people who are passionate about something, experience. And while I don't think my classes explicitly addressed how to prevent burnout, it did help me think about ways to sustainably implement these teaching styles, paying attention to your own needs as well. This is important to consider in all community work, I believe. Throughout my time in America Reads, working with kids and learning more about effective teaching, I began to realize the importance of story. Books are essential tools for learning, and they play a critical role in students' instruction. My CESP project is working with one of the practicum courses, the final reading one typically taken by seniors, which focuses on literacy development. Through my project, I developed a list of resources to help U of M students prioritize their time with their buddy, instead of struggling to pick out a book. The curriculum and instruction library has so many good reading resources that I want students to be able to take full advantage of those. It can be overwhelming to try and pick out a book that will really match your student. This database helps streamline that process and can serve as a resource even as students enter their careers. Reading instruction is one of the core components of education, and it has been a connecting point for me with a lot of the students that I have worked with. Stories that ignite excitement, personal connection, and creativity leave a profound impact on students, and stories can bring us together. Throughout my time at the U, I have been challenged to see the world from a new perspective. The beautiful thing about teaching is that each student is going to have their own way of seeing the world too. And as a teacher, you have to be prepared to help them find their story and show them the world of possibilities that awaits. I can't wait to continue incorporating all that I have learned about community engagement as I partner with families to best serve their children.